Hey, Zeke.
See?
Did you know that today's show is sponsored by CaskCartel.com?
Maybe.
When you're sitting at home at night and it's late, the liquor store's closed, you're bored, you're on the couch, you're like, I'm all out of my Wheatley vodka, or I'm all out of my gin. You got to get more. Or maybe it's your whiskey. Whatever it is, CaskCartel.com will get it shipped right to your door. They have some store picks, even though it's not a lot. There's some Breaking Bourbon picks on there. This is not going to be the place you go to get crazy bourbon and crazy whiskey. But if you want some good daily drinkers, be it bourbon, be it gin, be it vodka, tequila, mezcal, whatever it is, go to CaskCartel.com. They are changing the industry standard. They're like the Amazon of the spirits industry. You know what that means, Zeke?
I know what Amazon is.
So you know how Amazon is not the one who's actually doing the selling? They're kind of getting stores. They're a place to bring stores together with the consumer.
I mean, I hit this pay button on the Amazon.com.
Yeah, it goes through Amazon, but there is another store that is actually fulfilling that order.
Okay, yes.
So that's what Cask Cartel does, so that you can sit on the couch with one hand and order your liquor.
One hand, you say?
Yeah. CaskCartel.com. Follow them on Instagram, CaskCartel.com, or also follow them on Facebook. Hey, Zeke.
What's up, John?
How are you?
Alive and kicking?
I feel like you have something.
You feel like it?
Do we want to talk about how you posted a story about a hologram sticker Willet and then just pieced out for the rest of the day?
I mean, I wouldn't say I pieced out. I would say it was expected.
I answered over 200 messages on our Instagram.
Well, you also politely posted in Facebook, message Zeke if you want to will it.
I felt like you needed to share in the fun.
Sharing is not caring in that case.
I had already had all of the messages on our Instagram page, our Facebook page. I feel like, the people need to hear from you.
Where there's a will it, there's a way.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Edwards, and with me is Zeke Baker, and together we make the Dad's Drinking Bourbon. Wherever you are, whatever time it is, thank you for making us a part of your day. How are you, Zeke Baker?
Can't complain. Another fun day in life.
I do have to say I recorded with the folks from the Bourbon Road. We released an episode with them on Wednesday. They were very curious about who you are and what you do.
Well, so long as you told them, we have an open relationship and, I'll let you roam from time to time. I can't be with you all the time.
Well, they wondered when you actually are with me, and they theorized that you were a little person that I kept in my pocket and just pulled out whenever I needed to do a show.
You should have explained to them that I made the decision to have 2 kids and not 1, and therefore my time was much less limited.
That is your decision, and we are free to do as we please, right?
Well, when it's allowed or available, which diminishes significantly with that second little one pulling at the pants leg all the time.
I am so happy to have you here. I'm so happy to have 2 of our best friends here as well. How do we say this? Because you know how there's rappers now that it's like FKA something if somebody else had the name and it's formerly known as?
You talking about like when 2 Chainz used to be Titty Boy back in the day?
And now he's like FKA Titty Boy?
No, he's 2 Chainz.
Oh, it's 2 Chainz, yeah. But like...
What about Krispy Kreme?
What is Krispy Kreme?
You don't know about Krispy Kreme?
No, like the donut?
No. Well, he was a rapper, but then Krispy Kreme donuts got a little mad, so now he's Froggy Fresh.
Froggy Fresh, bro.
So he could be FKA Krispy Kreme. Like there's a singer.
What does FKA stand for? You keep saying this.
Formerly known as.
Oh.
There's people that put in their name now, in their stage name, it's FKA whatever. So if they can't be the name, if you were Zeke, and then somebody said, you can't be Zeke, I'm Zeke, you'd just be FKA Zeke.
I'll start calling you TIMA John.
What's that?
Thumb in my ass John.
That doesn't make any sense. I didn't do anything to put my thumb in my ass.
Some days I wonder.
No. But we have 2 of our very best friends. You guys know them. They are now JSquared Barrels, because there's 2 of you.
Yes, sir.
There's Justin and James. Say hi to the folks.
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
How's it going?
I just want to know if there's going to be a square angle on any of these barrels that are going to show up inevitably, because I feel like there's not one if I think about it in my mind.
Stay tuned.
What barrels are you looking for?
I mean, I'm trying in my head think like a square or a right angle on a barrel. There's not many there.
You got your own barrel.
I don't know. I haven't seen the barrel still, but I have the contents, which is, all that matters end of the day.
It's a give take.
I'll take the end I ended up with.
I want to describe this for everyone because James is sprawled out on the couch right now. He's got the recliner going back. This is typical James Davenport fashion for recording a podcast. And Zeke and Justin are sitting up on the stools. So I want to thank you, Justin. We keep Zeke up there so that he'll stay awake.
My back hurts.
Does it already? Do you want me to switch with you for the next podcast?
No, we're good. I'll suffer.
Be careful. If you swap with him, that sofa's a black hole, man. He was talking to me, and I was like...
I'm a terrible car rider. If I'm not driving, I fall asleep real quick. So if you put me on the couch, it could be trouble.
Same way. I go from wide open to immediately just idling. Like, nothing for me to worry about. Might as well shut down for a little while.
And Zeke already talks slow, so he started going like this. And my edit, so I edited it to make it sound like he was talking fast, but it was rough. From then on, I said, Zeke, I got you a stool. We could still record up here. Eventually, I will get a round table. Justin, James, you guys used to work at a liquor store. We don't know what the future holds, but we do know that we're going to talk about it more in depth probably next week. So this is more of a teaser. If you used to go down to Barrels and Brews and see these guys, they're no longer there. You are off doing your own thing, and we will talk about what that thing is and what it means later next week, right?
Could be whiskey reviews.
Could be whiskey reviews. They could be starting a podcast.
You have
Stay
to talk
tuned
for those, right?
I don't know. No, in fact, there could be one with hand signs or something. Or maybe just type it back and forth and the conversation pops up on a screen like a happy medium or something. That's got to exist, right?
What if they typed it and had the computer say their words? So like the whole episode was just them typing.
Only if they
into
could pick like certain voices from different TV shows or something.
Yeah, get real weird real quick.
So what cartoon voice would you go with? Literally anything off the cuff.
Tally from freaking South Park, man.
That's it. So I need a fucking time.
So we've got Tally. What's your complimentary voice going to be to that, Mr. Davenport?
Oh,
Justin said he's going with Tally.
I just like when Cartman and Tally fight. He's like, "You're stupid." And Tally's like, "You're stupid." He's like, "You're a towel. You're a towel."
I don't know, guys. I'm kind of on the spot right now.
Well, you can go with anything. There's got to be some cartoon character pops in the mind real fast.
I don't watch cartoons. I don't have kids, guys.
You watched it when you were a kid?
I know.
Do you ever watch South Park? Do you watch The Simpsons, Family Guy?
I watch a lot of like Married with Children. That's
BoJack
pretty
Horseman.
prominent, but that's not. Yeah,
The Jetsons, the Flintstones.
See, I'm going.
I mean,
back
I watch South Park, but I mean, it's hard to pick a South Park character.
I'm gonna say
Randy.
Yeah, he's Randy.
I was gonna say like Mr. Garrison.
Okay,
Mr. Hat.
Because I don't talk it like. Yeah, Mr.
Oh no,
Garrison.
sorry, I got confused with Mr. Mackey first.
Or yeah, Mackey. Yeah, Mr. Mackey.
So we've got Mackie and Tally going back and forth.
Cheating is bad. Okay.
Yeah, Mackey.
Okay.
This should make for very interesting. I like where this is heading.
Zeke's got more of a Cartman personality. You're kind of poking the bear with everyone.
So?
That's Cartman.
Oh.
You know, Stan and Kyle are just trying to stay out of everything.
Gotta have a little fun.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe James is Butters.
Well, you've seen my character. You've
he's
seen
not
my
Butters
character.
at all.
I have a character already.
Lou, I got some apples.
I'm sorry, but Randy's my favorite character.
Randy is
Stan's
the best.
dad is the best.
Integrity Farms is a great plot line. If anyone has ever seen the overlogging episode, which is where the internet goes down, that is Randy Marsh at his best. Guys, what we wanted to do, we wanted to tease this longer show we're going to do with you all, but we also figured we should review some whiskey while we're here, typically as you guys were store owners, you weren't commenting as freely about the whiskey as you would because you were like, hey, we got to sell this. You guys are unencumbered. This is a free-flowing conversation, and we're going to talk about Oak and Eden. So they sent us, and thank you guys for sending this our way, they sent us a Bourbon Inspire and a Rye Inspire, 2 different whiskeys. So one's a Bourbon, one's a Rye. The Rye is 95.5. Not all of their stuff comes from MGP. A majority of their stuff comes from MGP. Their whiskey is the High Rye Whiskey Mash Bill. 60% corn, 36% rye, and 4% malted barley. Most of this is approximately 2 years old at number 3, charred American white oak. But the interesting thing they do is in every single bottle, there is a spire. And that spire has been put in there to age and flavor the whiskey a little bit longer. What they're doing, it's a cut spire. They talk a lot about surface area and how much that spire is actually going to get in there.
Is spire like a known term? I'm not even joking for once.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wood spire.
Well, for anyone like myself that didn't know what that means or has never heard the term, basically a spiral-shaped piece of wood that's kind of notched out through all 4 sides. And I would assume the purpose of that is to allow as much of the spire as possible to have contact with the juice inside the bottle.
So if I were to look up spire, it is a long tapering object.
Yeah, it's a piece of wood that's cut into a spiral.
Yeah.
And it's a cylindrical shaped.
It all comes in at 45% ABV, 90 proof. It's about $40. What'd you guys get on this? Zeke, do you want to bat lead off here? Let's do the bourbon first.
All right. Nose is it's fairly sweet, but almost to the level of sweetness that almost kind of gives away, to me at least, artificial sweeteners to a degree. It's just to a level of sweet that I've never gotten in whiskey, and even in young whiskey when it's sweet. I think, instead of had those products, corn is sweet in a different way. Regarding palate, to me, it pretty much follows suit a good bit to the nose. A light and sweet product, and, knowing it's a younger-ish and lighter color, the sweet that comes out, it doesn't scream to me corn or young whiskey. And it almost kind of reminds me of the way the flavor hits right at the very beginning. Buying a piece of cheap bubble gum, the first 3 times you chew it, you get this, rush of sweetness, and then all of a sudden, I'm going to spit this out and go for more or something. Back end, it got kind of squirrely on me. I don't know what it does necessarily, but I feel like whatever's there just kind of does not really complement the amount of sweet that's on the front end. And you just, the commentator and anchorman, you get that whammy.
Whammy!
Yeah.
What about you?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I mean,
Johnny. I'm surprised you didn't pick Johnny Bravo, by the way, but continue.
I'll give you that one. A lot of things that he just alluded to. I get a lot of sweetness on the nose, kind of like this kind of artificial sweetness as well. On the palate, it kind of transitions into a little bit thin on my palate for me than what I typically like. I applaud them for trying to do something different and kind of complex the profile a little bit with a younger whiskey. I just, I don't know if it's got this kind of astringency on the back end that I'm just trying to put my finger on, a little bit of greenness, but it just kind of takes away from the naturality from what I'm used to, if that makes sense.
I get that. I mean, I think there's anything you're doing with this, with Aspire and aging something 2 years and trying to put something in there, you are trying to artificially speed up aging in some way, shape, or form. Some people are using smaller barrels. Some people are using spires. I mean, you look at some places that's actually going to change the temperature that's going to happen in a rick, and those are things that happen all the time. I mean, somebody's doing something to try to make it age a little bit quicker.
And I mean, each spire could be different as well. So many different variances per bottle.
What kind of QC are they doing to where every single spire that goes in there, they can at least have some kind of 90 to 110% type range of, well, our product should fall in this window. I mean, from what little I and we know have picked up over the years on wood, can't really just take a piece of wood and cut it, and those nutrients with this toast and char are going to do this especially something as small as 750 mLs. I mean, a lot of window for variance.
Yeah, exactly. That's just what I think, because you get that artificial, not artificial, but you can tell that there's something manipulating it. And each one could be different.
And also to a factor, how long is that actually going to sit on the shelf? Like if you've got that product that actually has that oak stave sitting in the barrel or sitting in the bottle, on the retail shelf, how will that manipulate to where it changes to?
No, that was the other curve that I can't remember if John mentioned or read about before we went on, but somewhere in the literature, an article he found, it said, that it was designed to impart flavor for 6 weeks.
And then it kind of.
But as long as it's in the juice, I mean, I don't know how it's going to stop imparting flavor. I think about, scotches and.
Well, it's a small, little stave. So, I mean, there's only so much it could probably take away from it, or what do you mean?
I mean, I don't know. I just figure they have a second, third, and fourth time used Scotch barrel and all the stuff that gets passed around, different finishes. I feel like the wood, to some infinite amount, always imparts something. It just keeps going to some degree. I definitely would have a hard time believing at 6 weeks it just, I'm done. Peace. Well, just going to float around in here.
Now I can allude to this. I don't know if you I'm sure we've all had this problem. We've had some of these older bottles that actually have the classic cork in the bottle, and I've still got a few that are open and the cork falls in, and I've never bothered to filter it out or take it out, but it definitely imparts the flavor a little bit.
Zeke gets very upset when the cork falls in.
I get very upset when somebody snaps a fresh William LaRue Weller.
I'm just saying, I mean, it's not my fault. It's a weak-ass cork.
This sounds personal.
Yeah.
Sometimes it adds character.
Take your wrist tension out on other things.
I don't know if you knew this, James, but I opened Zeke's William LaRue Weller, and I must have been particularly... Just like his hands
there, he did this. It didn't go vertical with it. Horizontal pull.
No, I went...
And it snaps.
I turned, and then I went to pull up, and when I pulled up...
And then literally had the cork a kid with his hand stuck in the candy jar look. I mean... I don't even. I hear a funny noise, and I just kind of look up across the table, and he's like, "What? I didn't do it."
Now Zeke has taken this.
It's in your hands, son. Don't give me the "I didn't do it" look.
Zeke has taken this very personally, and he needs a lesson in how to move on. That's all I'm going to say.
Don't worry,
but
can't wait till next year's B-Tax.
Speaking of moving on, I feel like there's just something funky in the finish that doesn't move on this one. I think the front is sweet. Zeke, I agree with you a lot that the nose is sweet. The beginning of the palate is sweet. There's something towards the back end of the palate on this one that's a little bit funky for me, and I haven't been able to put my finger on it. It's not like a dusty funk.
All I get's, like Justin said, it's dry, and I would have to assume that is some nuance from the spire, but it's not expected by any means, and I don't see it, tipping his hand until all of a sudden you're just like, well.
But it's like an artificial sweetness plus funk at the very tail end of the palate.
I get a barnyard thing too. I don't know, just a little bit of greenness, like I said earlier, and then maybe just that little bit of dryness. I don't know, but
the greenness is something that's definitely, it's an earthy, grassy funk but it's a little artificial in the sweetness too. So that was a little bit interesting on the bourbon for me. Zeke, what about you on the rye? I know you've been over there sniffing it.
Nose-wise, it's got a strong mint component, a little bit of sweet behind it. It really kind of reminds me of Wrigley's gum, the amount of sweet that's, layered behind that initial just, jolt of spearmint or wintergreen that's in there. Palate-wise, don't really get as much sweet out of that one. Definitely pick up that it's a younger rye and has just some kind of strong minty characteristics to it. Not too grassy to me. At 90 proof, it's not too hot. Granted, are the staves or the spires that are in these the same, or are they different, or do we know that much detail?
Well, you got to think. I mean, going back, and I always go back to this, the Dan Gardner episode. I mean, we don't know if it's tight grain or loose grain on the stave. I mean,
one says toasted oak and one says charred. So
if they toast something, it's just a lightly fired. Is that charred or
this is the charred one?
What char level?
I don't get all that out of it. But
so it's a char number 3 on the barrel.
From what it was aged in initially.
Yeah,
but not the stave that's inside the bottle.
Yeah.
As
it's just saying charred oak, which I don't get much wood, bite, bitter, or anything I would think of from an an over oaked expression in that one at all. It seemed to impart as much of a flavor variation compared to what came off of the bourbon one.
What about you, Mr. Justin?
I initially liked the nose on it a little bit better than I did the bourbon, if I had to pick between the two. But still, there's just some kind of lingering artificial thing, as we've already talked about. Very thin on the palate, a little bit of astringency on the back end. If I had to pick between the two, I prefer this one a little bit better than I do the bourbon. But that's just my Baskin-Robbins talk on that one. But
on the back end.
I like a finish. So still a little bit thin on the palate for me, but if I had to pick between the two, it's still got a good little finish, but it's still like on that last part, it's got that just a little bit of an astringent greenness to it.
James, do you concur? He nodded his head. Just for all you people listening, he nodded his head.
We got the nonverbal concur.
I'm with you on preferring the rye over the bourbon. I like the spiciness of the rye a little bit more. It's just something funky on the finish for both of them for me. I do think it's unique to try it. They are doing something that's a little bit different, but I've seen spires work on more than one occasion. I mean, look at what Heath Clark's Black and Tan. Yep. That all started from, putting in a little bit of a stave. It wasn't cut into a spire, but that was putting in a stave in his new make. So, I think it could be something that could be explored a little bit more. One of the things that I find that's interesting about this is the distillery is actually in Texas, and they don't ship down the barrels until they're ready to actually bottle them because they know that Texas is harsh. So they're aging their whiskeys at the other distilleries, mainly MGP, as long as they possibly can, calling it down when they are ready to go ahead and bottle it, and then putting that stave or the spire in there. I'd be very interested to see what maybe some of the different profile, almost like what Makers does with the Private Select program. I wonder if you can put different types of spires in here to get a different profile. And could that tweak it a little bit more?
It's weird that, honestly, these spires in here, they're trying to get away from it aging too fast down in Texas with the heat, but you almost get something of that nature with the spire being added.
Got to be
added to the bottle.
I'm not saying it's the same effect, but it seems like you're trying to get that oak too fast, like you would get.
I would think that maybe the mindset was that it ages. If it sits in Texas and ages, the amount of yield's going to go down dramatically than what they're paying for a barrel versus what they're able to have for the product. But I wonder too on that finish aspect, if it's maybe not just simply the amount of the surface area ratio of just 750 mLs to that spire, if that's not got to be to me something off that as far as we've had barrels that a little bit too old and too much oak can show itself in plenty of different ways, whether it be char, bite, dryness, things along those lines. I just wonder if, as the bottle sits and that spire sits in there, if, as that, the nutrients get sucked out of there, so to speak, all that's left is the burnt part of it. And that's going to make, to me, the finish get kind of weird, squirrely or funky somehow.
Maybe it needs less spire. Maybe you need a quarter of the size of the spire. Maybe you even need less, right? Maybe less is more in the spire department here.
Well, I almost wonder the reason we haven't recreated the wheel, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder too, like as you alluded to, Makers is doing staves. Plenty of folks are using staves and things, and they're putting out quality products. I just wonder why the need for the individual spire in every bottle, as opposed to putting a stave in a barrel that would probably yield more consistent results, I would think and hope. At least that barrel is going to taste the same, whereas I could see getting 3 different bottles and, well, A, B, and C, and the label's the same, but...
This was 2 shipments ago compared to...
This is the single bottle project instead of single barrel project.
I appreciate the innovation. I just don't see... It's neat to see on how it's going to actually affect the product even after it's been bottled, and you throw that extra stave just to give that extra influence to it. I just don't... For me, the naturality, if you were going to do like some kind of spiral stave influence, there's some other distillers that have done kind of the same projects where they actually put it inside the barrel while it's been aging into the barrel. I just think it can kind of, like Zeke alluded to, it can get a little bit squirrely with it having aged inside that bottle while it's sitting on shelf life.
I am all for experimentation,
Absolutely.
and I'm all for trying to push the envelope. But maybe it's one of those things where they're not putting it into, like you said, Justin, it maybe like, hey, when you know you have 3 weeks left to go in the aging and it's in Indiana, maybe that's when you're putting it in. But here's the other thing I would say. There's been some really good 2 to 3 year MGP.
Very good.
There's some stuff. I mean, I know somebody's going to say 2 years, that's young, but there's been, and look at Pinhook with the 4 year MGP that was phenomenal. Is it a situation where you're kind of jumping the gun and putting this stuff in too soon? Maybe it is something that you just want to kind of roll the dice and put it in the last 3 weeks in the barrel where the surface area ratio of the stave or spiral to 50, I mean, it's not 53 gallons at that point, but it's a good amount of liquid.
Always go to, back to quality control too. Like if it's got my name on it or I'm putting it out, I would want to taste it, or somebody taste it before it becomes, final product, quote unquote. Yeah. And there's no way when you taste it versus what the consumer tastes, it's exactly the same.
No, because the final product is going to happen in the bottle.
Like to me, that would be, I wouldn't want to give up that kind of control for a product I was putting my namesake on.
So I'm going to review this one a little bit differently then. I'm going to say probably A for effort, but the whiskey's more of a C. And that's where I'm going to, I'm not going to buy bar pass or buy bar whatever this. It's more of if you're interested in the experiment, go ahead and try this.
It's a reasonable price point, actually.
Yeah.
I mean,
$40.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like it comes back to climate control. Like, I mean,
what if it's
down in Texas? It's a lot longer. You got MGP
retail
juice.
Store, 3 bottles, and then
I would like to see what happens if you play with these spires a little bit more. Maybe you need, and repeating myself, but maybe you need a smaller spire.
I think you need to be a little more controlled, like a little bit more controlled aspect of it from the moment it leaves the barrel versus putting a spiral into the barrel, which I think can initially hurt the whiskey as longer it sits on the shelf.
The spire in the bottle opposed to in the barrel.
Excuse me, in the bottle.
It'd be interesting too to see anyone that happens listen that follows this line. Have they bought them and found consistency, or literally each time they get a batch or a bottle, it's kind of like, well, what we got in this one here?
I'm also one of those guys too, as James alluded to. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I would tend to agree. Zeke, where are you on this one?
Somebody's going to see it at a bar and think it looks kind of neat. And if they buy it, they may like it. They may not. And I would just leave it at a bar simply for that reason. I don't think it's something I'm going to pick up. But again, in today's world with plenty of young craft places, there's stuff that, you may not even want to get down. So at this price, you're not going to be too mad, but it's nothing on my radar.
I want them to allow us to kind of play around and hone it in. Let us be your guinea pigs. Let's try some different stuff. Let's do this together. We're happy to help.
Well, once you drink these bottles, then we can get the spires out and get more creative.
Yeah, maybe cut it down, something.
I was thinking of using like a blow dart back of your head.
Okay. Wow. Anyways, before we end this, I want to let you know that all of the glassware tonight was provided by distilleryproducts.com. Janie over there, Carson, Vicky, the whole staff at distilleryproducts.com is amazing. Please go to them for all your laser etched glassware needs. They have all sorts of different glasses like the Tuath, the Glencairn, the wee Glencairn. You have the Neat Glass. They are the only place in North America that laser engraves wholesale the Neat Glass. They have the Dram glass that you would get at Willett. They have flasks, decanters, whatever you need. Distilleryproducts.com has it. Justin, James, thank you guys so much. I can't wait to hear what you're going to say for our episode next week, where we kind of find out transition that's going on in your guys' life and new adventure, new beginnings.
See, this is where if you had that big mix board, you could cue up a little Tupac and changes. Boom.
Stay tuned.
Honestly, it's so good. Just like fade out to that.
But until then, people can find you at JSquared Barrels on Instagram, right?
Yes, sir. Correct.
They can find us on Instagram at Dad's Drinking Bourbon, Twitter at Bourbon Dads, Facebook at Dad's Drinking Bourbon. They can find us wherever they download their podcasts. We thank Oak and Eden again for sending this our way. Zeke, where else can the folks find us?
I also think they may find James lounging on this sofa of yours, for a minute or two. He looks pretty cozy.
Everybody on Instagram sees how cozy he is right now. Let me tell you.
Where's my pen?
They can always find us in good old Nashville, Tennessee, or surrounding areas.
Thanks to JSquared. Cheers.
Ciao.
Cheers.